Happy Monday, everybody. My name is Brandon Rosa, and welcome to episode 155 of the Xbox in 10 podcast, your weekly source of Xbox gaming news covered in around 10 minutes. Every Monday, this podcast covers new game releases, the previous week's gaming news, and we all are in an Xbox-related fun fact together. This show is on YouTube and podcast services around the world, so please subscribe on your favorite and leave a review. Xboxin10.com, no numbers, is your quick source for links to all of our podcast destinations and social media profiles, which you can follow at Xboxin10. To start, let's talk game releases. The big games out last week were Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair Anniversary Edition and Evil Dead the Game. The games coming out this week include Umaragi Generation Special Edition, Behind Closed Doors: Developer's Tale, Divination, Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song, Deadcraft, They Always Run, Eternal Threads, and Dolmen. Now onto last week's biggest news stories, and we have 6 to cover this week. Number 1, and what will probably be the second biggest news stories of the year behind the Activision acquisition, Xbox boss Phil Spencer comments on Starfield and Redfall delays. Sean Carey at True Achievements writes, "If you somehow missed it, Starfield and Redfall have been delayed to the first half of 2023. Xbox boss Phil Spencer has now commented on these delays, saying that Xbox game studios must, quote, work better to meet expectations, end quote. Both Starfield and Redfall were delayed to next year, with Bethesda saying that Arcane and Bethesda game studios, quote, have incredible ambitions for their games, and we want to ensure that you receive the best, most polished versions of them, end quote. The news has come as a disappointment to many Xbox players and leaves a couple of big gaps in Xbox Studios' release schedule for this year. Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer later addressed Bethesda's announcement. Spencer said, quote, these decisions are hard on teams making the games and our fans. While I fully support giving teams time to release these great games when they are ready, we hear the feedback. Delivering quality and consistency is expected. We will continue to work better to meet those expectations, end quote, Spencer said. Starfield, which was one of the most highly anticipated Xbox exclusives, was due to launch on November 11th, while first-person shooter Redfall was down for a summer 2022 release. The delay means that Xbox exclusive releases are now looking a bit thin on the ground for the remainder of the year. It'll be interesting to see how Microsoft will plug those gaps in its release schedule and how it will approach the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase in June. Wow, what a news story to wake up to that morning. This has severe ramifications for Xbox this year. They simply don't have any big releases set for the remainder of the year. The only thing we can maybe assume, but who knows at this point, is that the next entry in the Forza Motorsport series will launch this fall. But we absolutely have no idea. Xbox and Microsoft have a huge burden on their shoulders to help us understand as consumers what we have to look forward to. This Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase in June is imperative to make us trust that they have a vision for the future. And it's getting to the point where we all thought 2022 was going to be the start of all of this, but now we're saying 2023. And for the last couple years, it really felt like we've always said, and I probably have on the show, next year is finally Xbox's year. They have to do it. 2023, it's make or break. Enough is enough. You have all these studios, you've been working on it for going on 5 years. Let's see a consistent and high quality release schedule for these exclusives. Number 2, a new Microsoft patent could allow physical games to be verified for digital use. Jordan Midler at VGC writes, plans for a disc-to-digital program have reportedly been in the works for some time. A new Microsoft patent could allow for physical games to be verified for use as part of an Xbox digital library. The patent spotted by GameRant suggests that players would be able to use an external disk drive, in this case an Xbox One, in order to verify ownership of a game. The player would then be able to play the digital version on their Xbox Series S, a digital-only console. It's unclear if this would allow players a permanent license to use the digital version of the game, or a temporary one that would have been re-verified. The latter is more likely, as if players were able to verify a game once and receive an indefinite digital license. Nothing could stop players from buying a physical game, verifying it, and then returning it. Commenting on this story, veteran tech journalist Brad Sams tweeted, quote, back in 2018, I wrote about a disc to digital for converting your Xbox physical games to digital entitlements. Looks like Microsoft got the patent for it recently, end quote. Sams then referred to a November 2018 story which first cited the alleged disc to digital program. According to the report, this was an internal strategy at Microsoft that would allow players to turn physical games into digital downloads. This is a really interesting story. We don't usually talk about patents that often on the show, as there's just so many that never see the light of day, but I thought this was really interesting. I would actually take this as great news. I love having a physical library, but I made the decision with the Nintendo Switch first, and then the new next generation of consoles, that I'm going digital only for convenience sake. But I really do love having my wall of games, which now I have a wall of retro games, so I would like an opportunity to continue to buy new physical games, but have the convenience of digital on my consoles. Number 3, Dead Space Remake release date set for January. Sean Carey at True Achievements writes, EA's upcoming Dead Space remake now has an official release date. The all-new version of the classic sci-fi survival horror game, which has been rebuilt from the ground up, launches for Xbox Series X and S, PS5, and PC on January 27th, 2023. Developer EA Motive confirmed the Dead Space remake's release date during a special livestream that showed off some early footage of the game's new environments, characters, VFX, and more. In a press release, senior producer of Dead Space Philip Ducharme said, quote, "Developing this remake has been a lot of fun for us at Motive, as we're true fans of the franchise and want to treat it with respect it deserves. It's been equally exciting to see players' reactions as we're taking them on the development journey with us. We're making great progress on our road to hitting alpha, and we're happy to announce that the game will be launching in January next year. We can't wait for players, both old and new, to see how we've elevated the original experience in the remake to be just as impactful for this generation." End quote. For those who are eager to see some actual Dead Space remake gameplay, the development team said it's planning a gameplay reveal for late October. This is awesome. However, as we just noted on the first story of the week, we cannot trust this date. Dates can no longer be trusted in the industry unless you're about a month or two out. They simply do not hold. Most of them get delayed. However, when this game does launch, I'm very excited to finally play it. I love the survival horror genre, with Resident Evil being one of my favorite franchises of all time, yet somehow I never played Dead Space. Can't wait to see how good this looks on my Series X. Number 4, Gotham Knights will no longer be released on PS4 and Xbox One. Jordan Midler at VGC writes, coinciding with the release of new gameplay footage on Tuesday, Warner Bros. Games issued the following statement. Quote, "Gotham Knights is scheduled to launch worldwide on October 25th, 2022. Please note, to provide players with the best possible gameplay experience, the game will release on PS5, Series X and S, and PC, and will not be available for PlayStation 4 or Xbox One consoles." End quote. Gotham Knights is being developed by WB Games Montreal and led by creative director Patrick Redding, who previously directed Splinter Cell titles Conviction and Blacklist. It was initially planned for a release last year before being delayed to provide, quote, "more time to deliver the best possible experience for players," end quote. This is pretty wild. I love the fact that they're removing the old generation of consoles. Do not repeat Cyberpunk that never should have launched for last gen. But how are you expecting to release this game last year and now you're pulling the old consoles off now? Crazy story. But I think it's a good move. It'll clearly pay off for them, and let's see if this is going to be a really good Batman game, because WB Montreal has not released a game since Batman Arkham Origins, all the way back in 2013. It's been a long time. Number 5, Xbox Cloud Gaming Streaming Stick and TV app coming soon. A report. Sean Carey at True Achievements writes, Microsoft is reportedly gearing up to bring Xbox Game Pass to TVs via a new Xbox Cloud Gaming streaming device and a Samsung TV app. A new report from VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb claims Microsoft plans to release an Xbox Cloud streaming device similar to an Amazon Fire Stick, quote, in the next 12 months, end quote. This new device will supposedly give users access to movie and TV services in addition to the library of games through Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Grubb's report also claims that Microsoft is working closely with Samsung to develop an Xbox app for Samsung TVs, which should also, quote, debut within the next 12 months, end quote. Back in June last year, Microsoft officially announced it was building its own streaming devices for Xbox Cloud Gaming to reach gamers on any TV or monitor without the need for a console at all. So this news shouldn't come as too much of a surprise. At the time, Microsoft also confirmed it was working with global TV manufacturers to embed the Xbox experience into internet-connected televisions with no extra hardware required except the controller. This is cool. We obviously reported on this news story way back when they first made that announcement, but it seems like if we're getting more rumors that this is ramping up to come out soon. Maybe we'll see it at the showcase next month, but hopefully not. Let that focus just on games and do a nice rollout of this, because once this is out, it's going to be everywhere. On every TV and every store, you'll see that little Xbox app for all the smart TVs. And number 6, 505 Games announces a showcase for next week. Ryan Dinsdale at IGN writes, Control and Assetto Corsa publisher 505 Games has announced that its first ever digital showcase will take place next week on Tuesday, May 17th. The Spring 2022 showcase will start at 9 a.m. Eastern on the publisher's YouTube channel and promises updates on previously announced titles in addition to a surprise or two along the way. 505 Games didn't give any inclination as to how long the showcase would be or what it would reveal. We're hoping that it could include an update on the Control multiplayer spin-off that's already in the works. The publisher also had a sequel to Bloodstained Ritual of the Night in development that was announced briefly in May last year and is therefore still due for an official reveal. We also know that 505 Games is publishing a dark fantasy RPG for Metroid Dread developer Mercury Steam, but this was only announced in December, so it may not be in any state to show yet. Two of 505's bigger projects that have just launched recently, the PC version of Death Stranding Director's Cut was released in March, and Iodine Chronicle Rising launched earlier this week on May 10. I'm just a huge fan of gaming showcases. I love all the announcements. Give me whatever you got. But it is cool and important to note that a Control multiplayer spinoff could be very big. That game was huge for Remedy a couple years ago, and it's a game that I still haven't played somehow, but it's right at the top of my gaming backlog. As always, we end our show with a fun fact about Xbox, and let's do a little history lesson on Bethesda Game Studios releases in their history, and let's note the years on these. In 2002, The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. In 2004, IHRA Professional Drag Racing 2005. In 2006, The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. Just 2 years later, Fallout 3. Just 3 years later, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. In 2015, they released Fallout Shelter and Fallout 4. In 2016, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition. In 2017, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim VR and Fallout 4 VR. In 2018, Fallout 76, although they were only a support studio on that, they didn't really make that game. In 2020, The Elder Scrolls Blade, and now, sometime in 2023, Starfield. So what does this mean? They haven't had a proper release since Fallout 4 in 2015, 8 years later. They absolutely need this game to be a stellar hit. It needs to run well, look good, and play excellent. Thank you all for listening to the Xbox in 10 podcast, your weekly source of Xbox gaming news covered in around 10 minutes. If you like the show, please subscribe to your favorite podcast service, share with your friends, leave a review, and follow on all social media at Xbox in 10. This past week, I've had no time to play video games as I've been traveling, but I'm looking forward to dig back into LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga as I finish up the new trilogy, which is my least favorite Star Wars trilogy of all the movies. My name is Brandon Rosa. You can follow me on Xbox at Brozo93. Hope you all have a great week, stay safe, and keep on gaming.